So this is from a novel in progress entitled Children of Orleans. It takes place in the 20s and 30s, most of it, half of it. The only thing you need to know is that there's a boy named Maxwell who's young, and his uncle is an old, crazy pirate. There actually was pirates in the 20s in New Orleans. It's really weird. Okay. On Thursday, April 28th, 1927, the old pirate came to live with the pirate and his family on Melpomene Avenue, and on Friday 29th, the city flooded his parish. The old pirate brought a few things, a small wooden chest, a suit, a few books, and he adjusted quickly to the small home, which he sometimes imagined as a ship set sail towards some nebulous and ancient destination, possibly memory, he told himself, or even death. In the mornings, he sat at the kitchen table and read the paper, and in the afternoons, he spoke with Maxwell's father until nightfall, or if Maxwell's father was away, the old mad pirate would take the boy on long walks through the city. On these walks, which generally lasted hours, Maxwell got the impression that the old pirate was a madman, though he listened to him carefully as if his words were constellations or maps to a dying, insane planet. "The Pope is diseased," said the old mad pirate to Maxwell on one of their walks. Pope John the 23rd, who was Pope from 1410 to 1415, and who was also a pirate, was particularly diseased. He had a disease where he thought he was Pope. All popes, as it turns out, have the same disease. Poets are also diseased. Most of them have syphilis, which is a sex disease that drives men to dementia. During the Sino-Japanese War, I met a famous Japanese poet who had syphilis. It was said that he hadn't left his house in 20 years, which begs the question, how had he gotten syphilis in the first place? Not leaving your home for years and years is a different type of disease, I think. This proves that poets generally suffer from multiple diseases. How did I meet him? I was responsible for smuggling a case of his poetry books to China. The Chinese love his poetry because it sympathized with them, or that's what they thought. Anyway, the last I heard, he probably died in the earthquake of 1923. A horrible earthquake that killed thousands, but it didn't mean to. The earth, like the sea, has no intention. You're diseased if you think it does. Remember that. Then there's a disease where you can't feel pain. There's no name for it as far as I know, but it's still a disease. I met an Indian boy once in Bombay who suffered from it. He stood in the center of beggar circles and cut himself to pieces with a small sacrificial roundo sword, all the while smiling like a god or like someone who had just seen a god. He wasn't a god, though. He died jumping off a roof for an English journalist when he was just 16. Turns out he was mortal, which is another disease. If you think about it, everything is a disease. Being 16 is a disease. Money is a disease, so are cities. Then there are cities which are like chain reactions. Then there are diseases which are like chain reactions. Those diseases are the worst because they inflict dozens of men, sometimes hundreds, sometimes millions. All white men used to have a disease like this. It was called manifest destiny. Then there's a disease that is similar to manifest destiny. It's called amok. The people who have this disease suffer a murderous rage, but then afterwards they suffer from amnesia. It's horrible. There was a village I remember off the coast of Borneo, or maybe it was the Philippines, or maybe it was the island of Java. Anyway, one day all the men in the village went mad and tore down their homes and started killing each other. By the next morning, the town had been destroyed and hundreds of men had been murdered, but none of the survivors remembered anything. They were horrified, as if in the night a great beast had come and laid waste to everything in sight. Can you believe that? I wouldn't have until I met the men who had done it. There's such sadness in their eyes, and of course sadness is another disease. One of the worst, but it's not the worst. The worst is a disease called Koro, which is a disease where men believe their genitals are retracting into their bodies, like turtle heads. This is the worst disease of all because the future of mankind resides in its ability to use its genitals. Imagine that, the future. When one day, if you think about it, all diseases will be cured, or a great unknown disease will overrun mankind and condemn us all to shit. Thank you.